So today on the show, I have my good friend Gavin. So Gavin, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, Dylan? How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I feel interesting today because last night was the Ethereum merge, and so did you hear about that? Did you know that went down?
No, no.
You didn't feel the
Right
ground
before I
shake.
get all my news, so if you didn't tell me, I didn't hear about it.
You didn't feel like the ground shake or like a shiver go through you. When
Yeah, there was something. The Wi-Fi went out all of a sudden, and no.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, did you just feel like the earth get greener?
Yeah. It looks greener outside. I'm sitting here looking out my window. It feels like I can breathe the Florida air here. So
Okay, yeah, so it's working. It's working. So
oh yeah.
obviously I'm joking, but the reason I bring that up is because I met Gavin at a crypto club event. So perhaps maybe you can tell me a little bit about like why you went to the crypto club. Have you been in it for a while? And what brought you to that point to connecting?
Yeah, so it was pretty interesting. I was just in the valley. I grew up in Vail, Colorado area, and it's different from the rest of the world in the sense that they kind of joke about it. It's kind of its own world up there. Most of the time, you don't get the experience that you get in cities. In cities, you have this amazing ability to go to a bunch of different networking events all the time. I go to like two or three different networking events every single week, and that's kind of on the slower weeks. So I'm always checking out the board, seeing what's happening in the valleys and everything. And I was really excited to see like a crypto club in the valley I was born and raised in, because it's like, okay, this it gave me goosebumps in a sense because I remember talking about Bitcoin back in high school when you were just using it on a black market basis, right?
Mm.
So it was really exciting to see it as, something that's legit, something that's happening in the valley. People are getting excited about it. And ultimately going there, it was pretty cool. First of all, my mom, that was her first experience with crypto, which was hilarious
Yeah.
to watch. But she was asking some great questions. She understands it. That day we went and signed her up for OK Coin and got her first couple of coins, which was fun. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I made sure she sold it before the big crash, and I want to make sure she buys some up before it goes up again. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was just really exciting to see something like that in the valley because it's not something that's ever happened that far up into the mountains.
Mhm.
It's typically the last place things happen in. We're the last ones to get food when it's snowed in and everything.
Yeah.
We're the last ones to get technology like fiber optic internets and things like that. So it's really, kind of proof of concept of, hey, this is actually something that is tangible for not just, people that are in the digital age, but, people as young as my parents.
Yeah.
Don't want to call my mom old on a stream. She wouldn't be happy
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that.
one.
She's youthful. She's youthful. But
Exactly. Showing up to a crypto club.
yeah, and I think that's key is so you mentioned something because my main thing, I do stuff with crypto all the time. Bitcoin, crypto, that's my area of expertise. But you do something outside of that. But you mentioned something that's really important is networking, right? And going to different events because while it might not be specifically about what you do, and we'll get to that in a second,
Mhm.
um, you can meet people that might be able to add value to what you're doing, might be able to refer you to someone that could become a client, or might be able to become your clients. Um, so I think that's really powerful. So, what is it that you do?
Yeah, so I've been marketing for the better portion of my life. It started with website development at a really young age. I hard coded my first website at 14 years old and kind of grew from there. Started working with local businesses in Vail, Colorado area
Mhm.
and grew outside of that. So, over the past couple of years, since then, I've been able to, do close to well, it's over 3.5 million generated in additional revenue confirmed, but
Wait,
I'm pretty sure
wait,
we've done more than that.
3.5
Um,
million for your clients. So you've been able to add that bump. to their businesses?
Yeah, yeah. So
That's
one
pretty
business
incredible.
alone we took from they were having a hard time getting over that $1 million mark.
Yeah.
And we really allowed to we came in and built systems that allowed them to go over that $1 million mark within 9 months.
Oh wow.
And it really comes down to systems at the end of the day. If you don't have systems built out that are very simple to follow and something that you can consistently do, that's typically where we find the fault in a lot of, businesses and a
Mhm.
lot of the smaller businesses.
Yeah. So what type of systems are you building out? So you said you do marketing. So
Yep.
imagine it's like digital marketing, like website design, like SEO, what all is that? So what type of systems
Yeah,
can
so
produce 1.5 million
typically
extra in
digital
sales?
marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, typically digital marketing, but we offer a service called Developer on Demand, which pretty much allows you to not only develop websites, but this can be chatbot, email marketing campaigns, pretty much anything that's going to drive value for a business. And we keep it very specific to that. We're not going to
Mhm.
do anything that is going to be, you know, it's not going to be valuable to a business. We want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're always giving value back to that business, right? And that's what's allowed us to be so successful in what we do. It's always value oriented. So it doesn't just stop at the marketing itself. It also goes to the back end of developing an incredible CRM system, customer
Mhm.
relationship management system, where that is every business is, a customer service business. I don't care what business you're
Yeah.
in. If you don't have great customer service, that's going to hurt your bottom line.
Yeah.
I've experienced this on both sides as a customer and as a business owner. It's very critical to have great customer service because at the end of the day, you can have a great product, but if you're not communicating with your client, if you're not communicating with your customer,
Mhm.
then they have no idea that you have a great product and you have a great service that you're providing them.
Yeah. If you
So
build it, they won't come. It's if you build it and tell them about it, they'll come.
exactly,
And
exactly.
tell them about it in the right way, right?
Yup, yup. I've run into a lot of businesses that have just incredible products, but they do not want to spend the money on marketing,
Mhm.
and ultimately they end up shooting themselves in the foot because they are capable of growing, but they never put the effort into that growth.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And you're saying, I mean, like website design isn't a new thing, but
Mhm.
you're obviously finding a lot of success in finding businesses all over the place that need your help. Why is that? Why haven't they figured it out yet?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that comes to mind is there's a lot of companies making a lot of money off of creating this kind of concept that building a website is easy, and it's not. I don't want to say bad things about Wix because I don't want them coming after me or
No, no,
anything,
you
but
can just refer to them as the standardized drag and drop builders or something. Yeah, but let's go
exactly,
into that.
exactly. There you go. There you go. So those standard, drag and drop, do it yourself concepts, they're great, but they they get you to the point where you get a website up. That doesn't mean that website's going to convert. That doesn't mean it's going to get traffic to the website. And I think that's the downside of it is they don't give you the full picture and the full spectrum of what it actually takes to succeed. It's not just a website. It's not just an optimized website. You got to make sure you get traffic to that website. And that's ultimately what we look at. We're not just building someone a website at the end of the day. We're going in depth and making sure that, hey, if we're building you a 15, $20,000 website, we need to make sure that you're going to make at least $20,000 off
Yeah,
that website. And
yeah,
if
get
you
that
don't want
bump.
to put any money into traffic and things like that, then it's just not going to add up. I'm not going to sit there and sell someone a really expensive website that doesn't make sense for their business. At
Hmm.
the end of the day, we're going to, sell someone that's making 70, 80,000 a year a $2,000 to $3,000 website with maintenance and, things like that. It's going to be a lot more reasonable for them so they can actually succeed with that. And I think that's where a lot of, marketers mess up.
Hmm.
They're just thinking about the next upsell. They're thinking about how can I get more money out of this person? When in reality, the best way to go about marketing, not for, just us, but for any business, is providing that value up front
Yeah.
and making
Of course.
sure that you're providing, 10x the value that you're charging for.
Yeah. So I want to touch on a couple points you made, but I want to make sure on two channels, because I know people listening to this, there's going to be some business owners, right, who
Mhm.
are in a position where they need a website, or they're curious about it, or they have a website developer or team that they don't like, right? That's common, right? Because
Too common.
most time that happens because they hire them not knowing really what they want or need, and so they hire someone who's going to provide a service that doesn't really match with the needs of the business. So it comes from like a faulty understanding to begin with. So we're going to talk about the business owners and how your stuff applies to them, but I also want to talk about the entrepreneurs and the opportunity that there is for them in this space, because it all is kind of coming together in digital transformation, right? Because we started with crypto, Bitcoin, that kind of stuff, but that's just another layer of this digital transformation that we've been going through since the early 2000s. And what lies behind us is probably pales in comparison to the changes and the transformations that lie ahead of us if we expect there to be any sort of exponential growth. So, with that said, I want to go back to the business owner, right? The small business owner, local business owner, because they're important. They're important to this country. They're important to our economy, and they've been ravaged the most by policies over the past few years. So, for someone like that, right, they obviously need a quality website, but
Yep.
I've talked to a lot of them, and you as well. They have no idea what it should cost, where to start, what things they should focus on. So, what type of advice or what types of things would you tell them that they should look for in going down that route?
Yeah, so of course it's got to be proportional to the business you're already doing. If you're just starting up and you haven't sold your very first product, then it's like, okay, you probably shouldn't even be looking at a website yet. There's a lot of, Google Business Profile is free to set up,
Mhm.
and it's something that you can actually create a free website through that you can put all your services and information on. That is a great starting point for a lot of local business owners. Even, service-based businesses that don't have a physical location yet, you can just set Google Business Profile to be a service-based location. So you can service, the Vale area. You can
Mhm.
service the New York area. This is where, like, I think a lot of photographers mess up. Is, we do help a lot of photographers and videographers in their industries,
Mhm.
and they start on social media typically, or anything but Google Business Profile. A Google Business Profile puts you on the map, literally, you know? And there's
I need to
businesses
do that.
that are, yeah, there's businesses here on, on Clearwater Beach that drive me absolutely insane because I've talked to their marketing teams and they're like, "Oh, we really don't want to set up a Google Business Profile yet." I'm not going to say any names, but it's like, why would you not want to be on the map and then spend $2,000 to get an influencer to create content for you on Instagram? It's very disproportional.
Yeah, that's odd.
So
Why would someone not want to do that? Is it just because
yeah,
they're afraid, they don't
it
know how, they think it's too expensive?
I couldn't tell you. It's in my eyes, like I come from a lot of experience. In their eyes, they might be coming from a different marketing background that told them that's the right way of going about it.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, it's like if you're not on the map right now, if you're not on the digital map, you technically don't exist.
Yeah.
Um, there's, some incredible rooftop bars that just, you would never know they're there because, first of all, it's on a rooftop,
Yeah.
there's no signage. It's not on a, street that there's a lot of, walking unless it's people that are actually in that hotel, staying at that hotel.
Yeah.
So, um, but it's one of the best rooftop bars in Clearwater, in my opinion, because
Yeah.
it's really nice. They've set it up beautifully. Um, Other rooftop bars there, they're just like, they're appeasing a different,
Mhm.
they're appealing to a different crowd.
Yeah.
Whereas this is the higher end crowd, but there's no way of getting to that audience. So
Yeah. So then so
this is
the
where I
nice
come
one's
back
not on the
to,
map? So, like, even the
uh,
nice one isn't on the Google Maps, so they could immediately build more, even if they kinda doing, like, that exclusive thing, like, you have to know us to know about us type thing, right?
yeah, no, there's speakeasies in St. Petersburg that have a Google Business Profile as
So
a speakeasy.
okay. So what
They
you're
they
saying
see the value in that.
So what you're saying,
Um,
the first is like, if the first step would be like exhaust all the free options, right? When you're getting started,
yes,
before
absolutely.
like building out this beast of a website, because they can
Mhm.
range in price from what, like a couple $100, if maybe to hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, most of the time, like there's businesses that are kind of the in between where they've spent the couple $1,000s on their website, but they want to have that customization that is required by like fully coded websites, like a
Mhm.
completely hard coded website. It's not going to be on a content management system like WordPress or Shopify, which
Yeah.
Shopify is actually really great platform. A lot of people disregard it because it kind of has that build your, do it yourself feel, but
Yeah.
they've done an incredible job for the e-commerce industry in the sense of they make it super easy for people who have a product to get that online. If
Hmm.
you're doing digital products and things like that, it's a little different. You're going to have to go through different content management systems. Um, but it's incredible that they've been able to offer that.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's the right platform for the right person. You have to figure out exactly which platform makes the most sense for you. In instances like we've generated 30, $40,000 for a company just through organic advertising by literally posting once a month in a Facebook group that appeals to their audience,
Hmm.
right? It's very minimal effort, but maximum results,
Okay.
right?
So
So,
let's take a step back. So we have the
yeah.
free platforms like Google My Business. Like,
Mhm.
is Yelp one of those free ones? Can you, or like
Yeah,
semi-free?
Yelp, I typically would suggest you can set up a profile there. It's going to
Okay.
give you the SEO value, the search engine
Yeah.
optimization value there. But they're going to try to get you to pay for one thing or another.
Okay.
And more often than not, it's not really useful.
Gotcha. Okay. So then you have Google My Business, then you have like the social media platforms. That's all free. So when you're
Yep.
starting out, or you're like trying to think about, hey, we need to get more leads, more attention to our business, start there. And
Yep.
then obviously you might need content, right?
Mhm.
Is that is that the next step before you decide to go full on build out the website, because you know where the website fits in there, or like what would you recommend for that?
Yeah, so in some instances it would be, but the thing is like with social media content creation, it's a very saturated market right now.
Mhm.
Everyone's trying to create social media content. We've seen TikTok results go down over the past couple of months, just because it's very saturated right now. And
Yeah,
it appeals to a different audience. So it's, not necessarily the best thing for like a B2B company, right?
yeah,
Where it's business to business. B2C is great on TikTok. It's huge. Snapchat, there's certain like fashion is really great on Snapchat. Clothing lines is really great on Snapchat, but more on the paid advertising side. So
gotcha,
when it comes to content creation, I think the most effective is long form content on something like YouTube. YouTube's
gotcha.
a great platform, and that's where you would want to start looking at having a website because you can
Okay,
also post that YouTube video on a blog that's also written out. And that content's going to be a lot more effective than posting for the next 30 days photos on Instagram
mm,
or, whatever you might be doing on that instance. But that also comes with keyword research and very specific things that you need to do it right, just like you would do it on Instagram. I just think it's going to be more effective for specific audiences.
gotcha.
So it very much depends on, which business you're going after, who you're going after, your audience, and so on and so forth.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. So, first thing, the free channels, then you figure out like where you can put some content on those just to tap into those audiences that might not have been tapped in or couldn't find you in the first place. And
Yep.
then from there, you really need to start thinking about, all right, how can we create a strategy to leverage our digital assets to get our business out in front of more people? And that's where a lot of businesses slip up, right? Or that's where a lot of them struggle. And that's where someone like
Yeah.
you comes in.
Yeah, so that's where, we find a lot of businesses, they'll get really good at the short form content before they get good at the long form content.
Okay.
Um, which is, long form content being 20, 30 minutes, hour, 2 hour long videos.
Mhm.
That can easily be repurposed into short form content. And that's where a lot of businesses mess up. They start on the short form and go to the long form eventually.
Okay.
So, it becomes really frustrating for them to continue doing the short form content because it's very tedious to create, a 30-second Instagram reel
Yeah.
three
Tell me about
times
it.
a day, yeah, exactly. Whereas long form content, we're doing that right here, right now. We're
Yeah.
sitting down for an hour, 2 hours, and going over all of this incredible content where you can actually clip this up and make it into more effective content on your Instagram, on your TikTok. And that's where I think the magic is. You see Gary Vaynerchuk doing this with
Mm.
kind of he chops up his speeches, he chops up
Got
everything.
his got his
Speaking
book
gig.
right here. His first book.
Yeah, there you go. Jab, jab, right hook. Jab,
Yeah.
jab, jab. I didn't know there was a third jab in there. I've always just said jab, jab, right hook. It's been
Hey,
a
you're not
while.
giving enough jabs, right? The jabs with the
No,
high
no.
value content, right? The clips, and the right hook is
Exactly,
the offer.
exactly. Yeah. And he even disguises, he talks about this in the book. He disguises that right hook as value, Um, which it's not so much disguising at the end of the day if you're truly offering products and services that give someone value.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
that's the end all be all goal is make sure you actually have a product or service that gives away value. And if you're unsure about that at all, then you need to be focused more on the value of that product and that service.
Yeah, of course, of course. And I think that's a big thing for entrepreneurs is figuring out that value, right? And making sure they have a product that people want, need, and desire and solves a problem in their life. More than just like, a band-aid, but like a, transformation. That's why I always tell people it's like, you need to create a transformational offer, something that bridges the gap from where people are and where they want to be. And typically where they are is in a state of disorder or pain or chaos that is causing them so much stress and strife that they will do almost anything to get out of that. And if
Yeah.
you have an offer that solves that need, or if you have a market that has those needs, then it's like giving food to a hungry crowd, to a starving crowd, right? Or try dangling water in front of someone who's in the desert.
Yep.
Now,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And there's a bunch of books that go over that. I think it was either Expert Secrets or .com Secrets by Russell Brunson
yep,
that goes over, creating that knowledge gap
hmm,
and filling that with a product or service, right?
yeah,
Um, that's more for digital products than anything else, digital
yeah.
products, informational like courses, content creation on that side of things.
But even for your stuff, for strategy and website, it's the same thing
Oh yeah.
because like you got the business owner that is like, why does my website suck, right? Why is it breaking down? Where's my developer? Or
Yep.
why am I not showing up on Google? How do I get ads going on? They're doing all these things. They're looking at their bottom line. They're like, man, we're not getting as much sales this month as we should. Or Kevin over there with his new shop is doing twice what I'm doing, but I've been here twice as long, right? So they're in
Yep.
that situation. So I think being able to communicate, that's key, right? And I think that's why you said this long form content is powerful, because you can talk about those points and distribute that. So when it comes to like the website side, like what is like I guess one thing is curious is because when I've talked to business owners about websites and stuff like that, they have no idea what they should pay. And they typically think like you can get a website for $200 and then it's good, right? There's no maintenance required, there's no updates, right? They pay $200 and or they can have their kid do it, right? What's like what's wrong with that perception? Is there anything wrong with that perception? How would you guide someone that's in
Yeah.
that state?
I mean, I don't want to say there's anything wrong with that because you gotta, as an entrepreneur that started with $0 in the bank account, I totally understand that sense of I can't go and spend $2,000 a month on a website,
Yeah,
So the very basic, the advice for people who are just starting out is yes, just get started, with what you can get started with. Beyond that, if you do have the financing to really go into this, the traditional web design was, set it and forget it. Set up a website, forget about it. You have a website, you're done with it. You don't have to optimize it or do anything. The new, what we call growth driven design, and this is a concept that HubSpot has come up with. And if you ever look at any of HubSpot's content, I mean, they've mastered SEO to an extent that if you look up anything marketing,
yeah,
HubSpot's probably going to come up in one time or another in that ranking if
yeah,
it matters to them.
Yeah.
So they're absolutely incredible when it comes to SEO and just marketing in general. They've done a great job with this, but they came up with this concept of growth driven design, which is continuously improving your website month after month
Okay.
based off of data. So it's data driven design. You're not, building a website off of assumptions. You're not saying, hey, let's change the button this color or that color because we think it looks better. You're changing it to a certain color
We'll
because
come back to that
it's
too.
going to perform better, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and my first experience of this, actually, this is a neat little, story. I don't want to digress too much from this, but when I was first starting out in kind of this marketing stuff and everything, I had the opportunity to meet this gentleman who was doing over $1 million a day in ad spend
Wow.
for Facebook advertising.
It's a lot.
And my first question, I'm like, how do you even begin to understand what to optimize first? Like, what color do you make the button? And like right off the bat, he's like, orange, orange. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, like, how do you know that? He's like, I've spent enough money to know orange is the highest converting button you can have.
Yeah. Write that
And
down, everyone. The orange button,
yeah,
key,
yeah.
right?
If you're
There's,
not sure yeah, when in doubt, make the button orange.
yeah. There's a reason why Bitcoin's orange, by the way, people.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's something that stands out. It's something that's, it's not red, it's not intimidating. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not going to make you hungry like all the Wendy's, McDonald's, they have
Yeah.
red in them because red typically makes you hungry.
Yeah. So that
So,
ripe fruit, that ripe, fresh, like that's what is. It's right. It is,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I couldn't even tell you what it was. I've just always known red as, something that all the fast food companies use because it makes you it makes you hungrier in a
Yeah. Well,
sense.
I think like what I've read is like it's a signaling mechanism to our brains from back when we were, swinging around in trees,
Yep.
allegedly, right? So that it's like fresh, ripe fruit, right? It's ready to
Yeah.
be eaten, it's ready to be pursued,
Yep.
um, that type of thing.
Yeah, no, that would make sense. That would make a lot of sense. Blue being like a very trustworthy brand color.
Mhm.
You're typically going to see like insurance companies are picking blue, progressive,
Yeah.
real estate companies like the blue. Green is going to be more of a, it's going to fall underneath that trustworthy, but the just colors alone is we could talk about that for an hour in itself because they invoke all these different emotions. So it's really incredible. You don't want a website that's like overly bright and overly neon because it's really hard to look at, but it does make sense to have, certain pieces of that highlighted in orange or in red, especially if you're, a food company. You definitely
Okay.
want to kind of lean more towards that red, but
And,
there's so many different nuances when it comes to even color on a website.
and so you're making a point, and you made a point before that you have to be very careful, especially like if you're learning or you want to work with someone,
Mhm.
and from the person hiring them. So if you're a business owner, even an entrepreneur, so
Yep.
that you don't want to just do it based upon how it looks,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there's data and science behind the different looks. And I know like back when I was building more funnels, a lot of people want a pretty funnel, like a sales funnel. And I would always tell them, it's like, yeah, you may like it, but that's not the metric you should be optimizing for. Like aesthetically pleasing isn't the result, right? Why are you spending this money on this funnel, right? You want to get sales,
Yep.
not just like people like, ooh, that's a really nice web page. Or, hey, that made me feel good. Well, did they
Yeah.
buy? And so you mentioned that there's different things, and one of the things you do is you put that value first, right? You put that results oriented consideration or prioritization for design over just, hey, does it look pretty, right?
Yeah. One, I want to. It's kind of one in the same. Like results are driven by a functioning, good looking website.
Yeah.
It has to be good looking in order for it to be result driven.
Mhm.
So it's
I don't know
it's
if I agree with you
important,
there.
huh?
I don't know if I agree with you there. I think there's a lot of marketers that might disagree with you there on it has to be good looking to get results. But maybe you have
Yeah.
something different. I mean, I know I've heard the story of the ugly website that generates, $100,000 a day or $1 million a day,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I'm not saying it has to be over the top, but it's more like functional design.
Okay.
So it's, it doesn't have to be a model to, to to you really love it, right?
Yeah. Then have to
Um,
win awards like for best website design, right?
no, absolutely not, absolutely not. And I think that's where like a lot of companies get mixed up. We've had a client recently that had this moment of, realization that they were ready to spend $10,000 on just animations and graphics. And I'm like, it's very disproportional right now because you want lead generation out of this. You want
Yeah.
results out of this. And as much as animations and graphics might differentiate you on the look basis, that's not that isn't what excuse me, I'm tripping up over my words.
That's all right.
That's not what is going to actually drive results for that business, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So they had this moment of realization that's like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be spending all that money on that. Maybe it should be more focused on the optimization. So to kind of come back to, the original question of like, how much should you be spending on a website? It has to be proportional to, your marketing and your marketing budget. Typically, on an aggressive level, you're spending 12% of either gross or net profit. I can't remember, but typically 12%. So I would give,
On
an idea
marketing.
of, yep,
Okay.
12% is typically a little more aggressive than most people.
Yeah.
But you're seeing in the digital age, companies are capable, like if you have a digital product and you don't have that many expenses, most of your marketing, most of your expenses is going to be marketing,
Yeah.
right? That's where most of your expenses should be. It shouldn't be on, the bells and whistles of a website and making it look good. It should be on the marketing side of things and
Paying for
generating that
ads.
traffic that makes sense.
So
Yep.
paying for ad space to get your stuff in front of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And not even that, like, you could spend more on the SEO side of things. Having
Gotcha.
a good SEO person is sometimes more beneficial than spending $1,000 a month on, paid Facebook advertising. Um, or Google advertising I've always liked a little more than Facebook advertising just because it's a lot more effective in getting in front of an audience that is in that buyer mindset.
Gotcha.
They're already searching up things that's like, hey, I want this. Whereas
Yeah.
Facebook, you can target certain audiences, but it's very much so, interruptive marketing in the sense
Yeah.
of you're interrupting them in a space where they're just getting on Facebook to catch up on family, friends, entertain themselves up to a point, get that dopamine fix, right?
Yeah.
So you really have to appeal to that audience when you're running Facebook ads.
That's fair. That's a good distinction for someone considering is the difference between someone searching for something and someone stumbling across something. Because I know there's some people are happy. Like I've definitely seen Facebook and Instagram ads that I'm like, that's really cool. Like most times it's for things I don't need, you know.
Yeah.
I do like when a business when I visit when I'm like shopping or looking for something online and I get a retargeting ad. Like I do
Yep.
really like that because obviously I've done marketing as well, and I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah.
cool. Like they're reminding me, or because like yeah, I get distracted, like
Yeah.
I'm looking at a product, and next thing I know, I'm reading something on Twitter about Bitcoin, then I'm back looking at a cat video or a dog video or a meme or something like that that my girlfriend sends me, right? So it's
Yep.
easy to get distracted. So I like when there's that follow up, but I don't always like some of the ads. I'm like, why are they showing me this? What makes them expect that I like that? But
Oh
then
yeah.
Google, it's very like when I'm searching for something, it's really frustrating if I can't find it.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's beyond frustrating, especially when, their advertising is very general typically. With Facebook ads, like you said, you can get very specific. You can use that data that you have collected from a website with your Facebook pixel to actually retarget people. If they get to the checkout, you can literally create a video saying, hey, we noticed you got to your checkout and you didn't go through with your purchase. Here's
Yeah,
a 10% discount. So you can, go back and do that. So it's a nice little reminder for a lot of people. And
yeah,
I think that's the way Facebook is leaning. And I like the way that they're going with that because it's a lot morally, sound marketing in
mhm,
that sense. It's not the buy this, buy that, buy a bunch of useless stuff that you don't need. It's really pertaining to your interests and what you want.
yeah,
So that's the nice thing about the Facebook advertising right now.
yeah. Okay. So I want to do like a quick, just quick summary bullet point recap for the business owner. for when they're thinking about how to expand their presence online. So, right, you start with the Google My Business, and then where do they go from there? Like, how do they kind of create that plan of action?
Yeah, so Google Business Profile is a great place to start. You really want to base it off of, where your audience is most of the time. Something we break down right off the bat is like, we have your persona, right? And we kind of go through literally what they would do in a given day. It
Yeah.
gets very specific down to when they wake up in the morning, what platform are they on? Are they checking
Mm,
their Facebook? Are they checking Reddit? What are they checking? Google, opening up the Google app and scrolling through all the news on there. That's typically what I like to do. So
yeah.
my second thought was, how do I get my clients on this?
Yeah.
Right. So it's a sense of understanding where your audience is and
Okay.
what time they're there and
Okay.
getting in front of them right then
Okay.
and there. If they're on Instagram right when they wake up in the morning, do that. If they're on Instagram when they're at work or when they're, just, kind of on their lunch break, then that's when you need to be posting on Instagram. So it really comes down to, where your audience is and, how to reach them best.
Okay.
There's not one definitive answer. I can't tell a B2B company to go to Instagram because most of their customers and clients might be on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
right? So, on a general basis, Google Business Profile is a good start for a lot of businesses. It gets them that traffic. If you already have a website, then you want a Google Business Profile and pretty much like the top three tools. Google Business Profile, Google Search Console is one of the tools that a lot of people just don't even know about.
Yeah.
This is the tool that's kind of separate from Google Analytics. It's a little different than Google Analytics in the sense that it gives you the data that comes directly from Google. So
Okay.
this is going to start giving you that insight as to how people are finding you through certain keywords on Google specifically,
Okay.
right? So Google Search Console is hands down one of the first things that you need when you create a website, or if you already have a website, you need to make sure you have a Google Search Console. This
Yeah.
is something that just comes default with all of our clients. They get a Google Business Profile, they get a Google Search Console, and they get a basic Google Analytics setup because we know how valuable that trackability is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of I think a point we're going into is trackability,
Okay.
making sure that you can track all your efforts. That's ultimately what's going to tell you where your effort should be spent and where they shouldn't be spent.
Gotcha. So you can get, yeah, that's it. I mean, that's a great start for anyone. And so just by figuring out where you can start for free, then figure out where your customers are at. So you direct more attention and resources initially or thought towards how you can connect with them best where they're already at versus trying to, go where they're not, because that's not going to work.
Yeah.
You can spend unlimited money advertising in the middle of the forest for,
Yeah.
whatever. But if your
Oh
customers
yeah.
aren't there, right, they're not going to buy anything.
Yep.
And then, setting up these profiles, so get that done. So I think I think an important thing, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, is why should someone hire a professional versus doing it on their own? What are the pitfalls of doing it on your own? And what are like the benefits of hiring someone who knows what they're doing, who has systems for all of that?
Yeah. So, yeah, this is a great example of this. At some point, as a business owner, you're going to have too much on your plate. Adding marketing to that plate is going to hurt you more than it's going to help you. So having a professional to go to is really going to not only save you time, but save you money and make you money in the long run, right? So it's something that like I always suggest learn whatever platform you're going to be on to a certain extent. If you want to go into SEO, learn how SEO works. Learn the verbiage when
Mhm.
it comes to SEO. But you don't have to be an expert in that field. Just be able to talk to your SEO guy about it and see where you're at and have that basic understanding that allows you to really delegate that out, right? So that's where the benefit is. Of course, I can say all day you're going to save time, money, and effort.
Yeah.
I think it gets to that point when you literally don't have any more time on your plate.
Mhm.
When you have no more time to spare and, your service is starting to suffer or your products are starting to be of a lower quality because you have too much on your plate, that's when you need to start outsourcing. And that's
Gotcha.
for anything. That's outsourcing, the development of products, that's outsourcing marketing, your accounting, that's anything, that's not just marketing specifically.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know there was a one of my early mentors, a guy named Ron LeGrand. He's a big real estate guy. But yeah, he has saying he's like, the less I do, the more I make. And it's
Yep.
so true. Like whenever I get advice from people that are extremely successful, they basically like channel that same philosophy in their own words. It's like when I started doing less, when I started delegating more, when I started trusting my team more, yeah, I started making more money. People were happier. I got better results. When I started letting go of me being responsible or me being like, hands on in charge of every outcome. Obviously as the owner, you're responsible for the decisions for your team. You have to take that responsibility because you got to make those choices, but you don't have to do the things, right? You're responsible for putting the right person in place to do the things.
Exactly. Exactly. No, you hit it on point there. I mean, it's so important. I mean, myself, I have a team of developers now, but at the end of the day, I'm still quality checking the websites. I'm still making sure everything is running smoothly. I still have to be involved to some extent, but not to the extent of developing a whole website. So it's a sense of make sure you're at the right point in your business. And if it's like if I've run into the issue in my own business where it's like, okay, I'm scaling, I don't have quite enough money to hire an expert out in that field. So
Yeah.
that's where you just have to unfortunately put more effort in. If you haven't done that half day, that 12-hour day, then you got to
Yeah.
start experiencing that. At some point it's like, I think we live in an age where not many people are disciplined, and
Mm.
that's where a lot of my successes come from, is just being disciplined in what I do.
Yeah.
There's some days where I'll work 24 hours. I don't do that all the time. I got to make it so that I can
Yeah.
survive at the end of the day.
Yeah. You
Um,
can't have you dying out there working on websites. That's
yeah, exactly, exactly. But if I know that, I can get all of this done within 24 hours and I have the energy and I have the ambition to do so, then there's no point in me rolling around in my sleep thinking about that stuff. I'm just going to get it done.
like what I think it was it Pablo Escobar that says, why save our tomorrow what can be done today? Something like that.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which, sometimes today will leak into tomorrow doing some of that stuff, which
Yeah.
is fine. I think if you do that every once in a while, it's okay as long as you schedule everything out appropriately. This is
Yeah.
why I don't take calls till, past noon most of the time, is because I know I'm gonna stay up late working on my business pretty
Yeah.
often, you know. But I make sure that I'm capable of doing that. I make sure that I give my time, to rest as well. So it's a balancing act at the end of the day, but sometimes you have to go a little more one way and a little more the other way. And having a good understanding of what you actually need to get done really helps in that sense.
Yeah. Definitely. So I'm gonna switch gears a little bit.
Mhm.
Recession, right? There's a lot of talk about a recession coming. Obviously, interest rates are high. Obviously, inflation's high. That's definitely hitting small businesses super hard, right? As the cost of goods are going up, and then their customers are feeling that pinch on their pocketbooks. So they're less likely to go and splurge or go out. Maybe in theory, right? Who knows? People
In
are weird with
theory,
money
yeah.
nowadays. So how important is it when you're going into a time like this to do an evaluation of where you stand online with your online presence and what type of money and budget you should spend? Like, is this time where people should be pulling back, or should they really be like doing that analysis and making a decision to actually put their pedal to the metal and spend more money and put more resources into expanding online?
Yeah. So this is really interesting because it's something that I've argued with a lot of people on in the past, in the sense of, oh, you're coming into a recession, this is when you should be pulling back. You see the most successful people in whatever it is, investing in business, they are putting the pedal to the metal during scarcity oriented times. When
Okay.
everyone is scared, they're doubling down on stuff, right? Now, that doesn't mean you have to spend, like, you don't have to go into debt pushing a business. Like, I'm very much so about being debt free and everything. I've run my businesses debt free since the day I started them. whether that was, working the restaurant industry so I could pay to start up that business,
Yeah.
whatever I needed to do um, to make sure that I could run that business debt free. That was really important to me. So being able to put the pedal to the metal is really important during these times, especially because, soft times create soft men is something we talk about.
Yeah.
Hard times are going to inevitably create hard men. You have to be ahead of the game on that. This is why I talk about 12-hour day being a half day. My dad and I have always joked about that, but at the end of the day, I'm glad he instilled that work ethic in me
Hmm.
because it's really important to have in times during a recession. This is the only reason our family got through the recession. This is the only reason that a lot of families got through the recession. They were
Yeah.
taking on 2, 3, 4 jobs at a time. This is, I've taken on the most clients now with a recession scare than I ever have before because I know what's coming, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately I'm trying to help all these people through that with
Yeah.
the proper mindset of it. You have to double down on your efforts. And that's what I'm telling them. I'm like, listen, if everything crashes, you're going to get double what you want with the amount that you're paying for right now,
Hmm.
you know? And that's what's keeping a lot of people on for me is
Yeah.
they understand that I'm very understanding of a recession coming up. I understand it's going to take more effort to get things done over the next couple years.
Hmm.
And I think this is when a lot of businesses are going to pull back from their marketing efforts. And
Yeah.
that's what's going to give a lot of businesses opportunity right now,
Mm.
which is, all these businesses pulling back.
Yeah.
Um, but it's definitely going to hit hard. I think it's going to hit hard, just like an '08, situation. There's a lot of, policies that have gone in place that have kind of nullified this a little bit in the sense of, foreclosures a lot more, well, it's a lot easier to get out of now.
Hmm.
There's a lot of companies out there that will help people out of a foreclosure situation. Um, and it's not going to hit as hard as it did in the '08, the housing situation, especially because we're still seeing it's not like there's a bunch of houses coming onto the market. It's not like there's that much inventory. We're
Yeah.
seeing more people being born than we are inventory for houses. So it is disproportional in that sense. And we have to be
Yeah.
very, very real with ourselves that that's going to be scarce in the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Housing is going to be very difficult. I know millennials are sitting here like hoping for a market crash,
Yep.
hoping for a housing market crash, but in reality, it's not anything I want to scare anybody about. I want to be real about it. You have to be ready for that. You have to be prepared and you have to be ready to double down on your efforts.
Which is why I tell people Bitcoin. But no, I did see a for the housing thing. I did see a it was some sort of stat, but it was like 2 years ago the average price of house in the United States was 400,000, roughly $400,000. The interest rate was 2.5% or 2.3%, and
Yeah.
now it is over $500,000. The interest rate is 6.5%, pushing 7%, and
Yep.
just the wild for the same house, right? Just in
Yep.
2 years. Right, you've added over $100,000 to just the cost of the house or the purchase price of the house, and you've more than doubled the interest rate. So
Yeah.
that's going to be really interesting to see play out. And I know that's going to create interesting times for businesses because if you know that your customers are having to spend more money on rent, right? That's gonna have an effect in the market. But like you said, it's important not
Absolutely.
to relax and step back and be like, oh no, I can't do it, but to put your foot down and be more focused, pay more attention, and do more building now because you're gonna need that energy to carry yourself through these times. It's like, when I
Yep.
mountain bike and a hill's coming up, it's not the time where I just sit back and hardly pedal. No, I gotta kick it into gear. I gotta stay focused to
There
get
you
up over
go.
that hill. Because if I
Yeah.
don't, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to have to be pushing my bike up,
Yep.
which is no good, or I may have to turn back. And
Yeah.
the cool thing is if you do and you can make it up that hill, it sounds like there may be other businesses that didn't. And the kind of the I guess the equity or the value you build for your customers by being the business that has been there through the hard times and be counted on and still does a good job is going to pay off extremely when times get better, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. this is definitely a time to be more stoic than Epicurean. I think this is, um, something a lot of people kind of go back and forth with, like, oh, should I only live for the moment because we're coming into a recession? No, not at
Yeah.
all. You should be very much so. Of course, be happy in your everyday. Find happiness in the things that you hate to do. That's what I find that works for me. It's not like developing websites was fun and exciting at first, but it's
Yeah.
something that you grow to love. And it's something that, if you truly want to make a business succeed, you're going to learn to love all the stuff that you may have originally hated to do. If you don't like to do the accounting, but you don't have any money to spend on an accountant, you're going to learn really quick. Either you aren't cut out for business or you actually have to get that done yourself,
Mhm.
and you're going to learn to love what you hate.
Yeah.
So, it's, little things like that. There's never a sense of, oh, I already know this, or I'm not very good at that. You're going to have to get good at things that you may not be good at
Yeah.
originally.
And with that, and I completely agree, right? You can be the type of person that faces a challenge and runs away, or you can be the type of person who faces a challenge and sees it as an opportunity to grow and become better. And so I think I want to touch on the entrepreneur. What type of opportunities do you see in this space, for the entrepreneur going forward? For either for doing some things, maybe similar things that you do, working with someone like yourself, helping businesses in the area, because obviously you can't work with everyone, right? So
Yeah.
what type of opportunities do you see, for someone that's an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so as an entrepreneur, the digital space is going to blow up just like it did in the pandemic. We had more people come into, being interested in websites and things like that when the pandemic hit. That forced a lot of people, first of all, to start, actually working from home. So that was
Yeah,
literally the only thing they could do when the pandemic hit. So it wasn't just a sense of, okay, now we have this workforce there. We're still lower, like we still need developers. We're still short on developers. There's not enough good developers in the world. And I'll say this for the next 20 years, I'm sure.
yeah.
But I think it was by like 2025, we're going to be short close to 1.2 million developers.
Wow,
And I
wow,
think
wow.
that's, yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous how many developers we need because of the need for the digital side. We
Mhm.
see Web 3.0, Web 4.0, and then Web
Yeah,
5.0 that's coming out eventually. We see all these things coming out, and we need people working on that stuff.
yeah,
It's like you look at these video games, you see the credits roll on that, and it's like hundreds of people working on one video game, one box office video game.
yeah,
So it's a sense of it's going to be valuable to really get into the digital side of things, understanding it at a better level. I'm coming out with a course here pretty soon that's going to teach people on a higher level the digital marketing side of things. It's going to be
yeah,
teaching from all of my experience and not so much the traditional marketing
yeah,
platform, right? So it's little things like this that are going to be very necessary to kind of get humanity to that next level of how are we going to use this technology to truly benefit everybody.
yeah,
Um, and that's going to be through automation, through AI, through things that have to be developed through developer. So it's something I talk about on a consistent basis. We need more developers, and it's it's something you as an entrepreneur should know. It's I talk about this is the best metaphor for it. Back in the day, it used to be the most intelligent people were those who could read.
hmm.
Now, today, it's the most intelligent people are those who can code and develop, right?
Well, I need to
So
I need to start developing my coding and developing skills.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Increase my
Get
IQ by
into
20 points.
Solana. Yep. Yeah, no, there's I mean, just development in the crypto side of things is
Mhm.
unreal how short-handed they are on that, you know?
Yeah,
These developers are getting paid almost like too much money because there's not enough of them.
yeah,
It's very difficult to find a developer in the crypto space. And I very rarely develop in that space because people just can't pay me enough to do it.
yeah.
It's difficult work, but I also understand that there's not that many developers in the space.
So I have a question. Obviously focusing on developers, create, if you're an entrepreneur, you can find ways to solve that problem. In, there's, what do they say, multiple ways to skin a cat. Um, so there's a lot of opportunity there, and that's something I hadn't heard. But just for someone who wants to be a developer, like, what would be the best route, or what would be a route that you'd recommend? Because I know they're probably weighing, like, can I just learn it all on YouTube? Or you mentioned you have a course. What's the trade off? Or like what who benefits from either of those options, or should I combine those? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so there's so many different routes for development. There's going to be different languages that you learn for video games than you learn from web. You know,
Yeah.
with web, it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, right? And there's a few other languages outside of that, but you want to be very specific to what you want to get good at first. If you want to be, a web developer, then HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Those are hands down going to be, the sweet spot. PHP if you're working with WordPress.
Okay.
If you want to go more on the traditional, development side of things, just being a coder, then JavaScript is going to be, very useful. Python is, an incredible language that you can learn. And that's more going to help you with, AI later down the road. Python's a great language for that, but you have to be very specific on what you want, because there's so many different languages out there. There's so many different ways that you could go with development. If
Mhm.
you want to develop more for crypto, there's languages specific for that. The NFT market has a specific language that you need to learn. And that's probably one of the biggest suggestions. Like, if you just have no idea where you want to start, I would start with the NFT market, because there's still a lot of value there. There's all this talk about, oh, it's just crash, like there's no value in it. There's still a lot of value there, because I think what people are not realizing is those who are connecting like real life value to NFTs, like
Mhm.
Bored Apes, they are still doing pretty decent.
Yeah.
They are still throwing in these incredible parties that only the most exclusive people get to go to, because the NFTs are at such a high price.
Yeah.
So being able to connect those real life, the real life value to these NFTs is going to be the biggest thing coming into the future. Having digital assets that give you real life value.
Yeah.
That's something that's I've been talking about since I played video games when I was a little kid, playing like CS:GO. We're selling skins that we would earn for pennies for dollars, right?
Yeah.
The return was ridiculous just playing video games. You're going to start seeing that more and more often,
Mm.
because there needs to be more opportunities for people. And it's something I'm really excited about. There's a lot of people that are scared about this and will talk badly of it, because it's not something that they understand.
Yeah.
This is the politicians that don't necessarily understand it. And the I'll give them some credit. It's very easy for, millionaires, billionaires to hide a lot of their wealth in that.
Mhm.
And in that sense, it can be a little cheeky, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's really going to be important for, the evolution of humanity, in the sense, on a bigger picture level.
Mm.
It's going to provide that value that we need to really produce what we need to,
Yeah.
as humans.
Yeah, I think that's good direction, good advice for someone if they're looking to start out, is obviously find the areas that people have problems with, and there's money and there's growth, right?
Yep.
That, and then also, like, if it's in alignment with what you like, right? If you have that added thing, because then you'll be more excited to do it, you'll be more excited to pursue that thing, to pursue that
Yeah.
route, to stick through the difficult times, to do the work required to get enough experience to where you can start getting paid and charging for your services.
Yep.
What I see, like, so you brought up NFTs, I'm skeptical on a lot of it. But I do feel that there's a couple things I think that are interesting. Is that they say that you need about a vocal minority of about 3% to impact change. And I think it was that not the Civil War, but the Revolutionary War was only fought by 3% of the Americans, right? So only 3% of the population really engaged in that. and we were able to break off from Great Britain, and we were able to become the United States of America, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty transformational. And right now in crypto, there's about 3% of the world, roughly, 200 to 300 million people worldwide that are involved. It's probably a little bit less. That number is probably slightly overinflated,
Yeah.
but about 3% of the world. So we're right on that edge of that kind of vocal minority that can impact change. And some of the vibes I do get from the NFT space, I do think there's a lot to be ironed out. There's a lot. It's in early days, but there's something there that feels a lot like the early social media time, where because like we started this conversation about networking and the importance of networking, going to where the people are at, going to where your customers are at. Well, there's a lot of excitement and interest in this space. And what happened with social media is, yeah, people thought it'd be big, but a lot of people dismissed it. A lot of businesses dismissed it. A lot of small businesses, large businesses weren't on Facebook, weren't doing any of the social media stuff. But now everyone's on it because that's where everyone aggregated, right? Especially that's where like the youth aggregated. There's a lot of youthful energy that was like, hey, we're going to hang out here. We're going to create this space. We're going to curate this. And a lot of people are like, that's weird. That's not going to work. Why are you doing that? And eventually more and more people went there. And then now the businesses are like, well, I guess we have to go there now. And I kind of feel that's happening in the Bitcoin crypto space as a whole. NFTs, I think, play a role in that. And of course, I focus on Bitcoin and crypto. So I believe it's going to become even bigger than what social media has become in the future, and playing a bigger role, more important role in the digital age that we're moving into.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. I have to agree. Yeah, up to a bigger extent. Like I think, crypto has definitely impacted the world, more than I would say more than 3%. It's there's I that's how I pay, half of the people in different countries,
Which,
because it's so much easier to pay my people in cryptocurrency.
yeah,
Um,
no settlement time, just boom, done.
yeah, they get their money in 24 hours. There's no bank that has to approve of it.
Mhm.
My bank isn't going to charge me a 10% fee to send
Yeah,
it over there. So, in that sense, it's really beneficial. And now during the pandemic, we've had an entire generation grow up on a digital platform, during the pandemic, we've had, these are people that this was, I don't think people understand the scope of it, but there was a year where we were just locked in.
yeah,
And the only way to meet people was through digital, through a video game. And I can relate to this because when I was younger, that's really how I met some of my best friends.
yeah. I played a lot
I
of Pokemon
didn't
Go during the pandemic, so I understand.
Yeah, yeah. But growing up in such a small valley, it's like if you didn't like the people you were around, the 20 people that were in your class, then you pretty much like you were SOL for the
Yeah, you have no
longest time.
friends.
Yeah. Now it's a sense of you can reach out to anybody in the world that you can relate to, and they can relate to you. And it's incredible the asset that becomes.
Yeah.
My friend and I at an early age, we were making a couple $1,000s just from Minecraft
Wow.
because, and this was before this was like 12, 13, 14 years old,
Yeah.
where I was making, good money for a 14-year-old. And it didn't make any sense to my parents, but they're like, keep doing what you're doing, he's making money, and made them happy at the end of the day. But we're building out these servers that communities would come to, and we would add digital assets to it that they
Yeah.
could purchase. So this was already something that was going on. This was 5, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This was already something that was happening at a pretty decent scale. And you're seeing this just evolve into something that's going to actually start to give real life value. You see all these Twitch streamers that are
Mhm.
actually, famous because of sitting there playing video games.
Yeah. It's wild.
Um, I don't want to discredit it in the sense that, they could be giving more value,
Yeah.
um, on a day-to-day basis, but I think a lot of them are understanding that, they don't want to just play video games all day now. Now
Yeah.
a lot of them are becoming artists, musicians, and we're really coming into this kind of renaissance era of the digital age, which is really exciting.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think one thing that is interesting, and to kind of conclude the crypto thing, is
Mhm.
that the infrastructure has kind of been set up and the groundwork has been laid with what you talked about of we've been have we, the first what is it, Web 2 that we're on right now with social media and outsourcing, because like I
Yep.
think Tim Ferriss wrote his book like the 4 Hour Work Week on basically it was like how to outsource, right? And that was
Yep.
in like what the 2009 or somewhere around then.
Yeah,
So
ages ago.
yeah, and so we've had this system set up where people are finding people that can do the work, that are skilled around the globe to bring on for projects to reduce the cost, but tap in on into sources of labor, into sources of experience that maybe aren't available on hand. So we have the infrastructure set up. The problem has been is that there's been always middlemen, and it's hard to connect with those people and pay those people. But that infrastructure is there, and then now with something like crypto, like you just mentioned, you're paying your developers in it. Now it removes that middleman and more empowers the people in those local areas, because now they don't have to go through that middleman directly to that will charge that 10-20% fee, or they don't have to hold their local currency, which as we're seeing right now is being devalued all over the planet, right? Which
Yeah.
isn't good. So like, you do a project, you're excited, but you have to hold in your local currency, and it loses 10% of its value in a day. Not fun,
Right.
right?
Right.
So we're seeing that use case really come into play on top of a network that's already built out. And I think that's only set to grow, right? As the world becomes more global and we start tapping into all these different markets that you could, because we're so connected online. So I think that's
Yep.
really cool. And
Oh yeah. No, it's really exciting to see. I'm thrilled with where we're going. A lot of people are scared of the future, but I'm beyond excited about it right now
yeah,
because of we're starting to find that balance of, how does technology truly help humanity, you
yep,
know? And we're really starting to, as you said, lay out the foundation of that. So it's pretty
yeah.
cool.
And a little fear, is not a bad thing about the future. You should have a little fear, right? Having that little bit of fear about the unknown is a healthy thing, at least
Yep.
in my mind, right? Then you can't just go guns blazing in there thinking that there's no
Yeah.
consequences, right? You got to be prepared. That fear
Yep.
makes you be prepared and think about things and strategize so you don't get killed, right?
Yeah. Having
Right?
that healthy skepticism is very important.
Yeah. So we're close to the end,
Mhm.
and so the last thing I want to talk to you about is um Florida. Okay. So you grew up in the valley, in the mountains, and you moved to Florida. So tell me about that, right? Like how do you like it? Like what's the difference? Are you happy there? Is it someplace you stay forever? How does the beach
Yeah.
life compare to mountain life?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. It's been an experience to say the least. Yeah, I think my favorite thing about it is, I go back to Vail now and I'm not a local, I'm a tourist. I get to do all the touristy stuff.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it for what it's supposed to be now.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I think, because of the way the valley's been growing, it hasn't it's become a lot more money oriented versus
Mhm.
local oriented. And that was the magic of Vail. They had such an incredible local vibe, and I think that's why it attracted these people that are millionaires, billionaires
Yeah.
that will spend $30 million on a house on the mountain.
Yeah.
So realistically, I think it's starting to lose that magic a little bit
Mhm.
because um it's it feels more like a corporation than it does a local village now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I understand that's the way we have to go at the end of the day. I'm not opposed to change and I'm
Mhm.
not opposed to, growth. But at the same time, you have to keep some of the essence of what made that incredible in the first place.
Yeah.
And it was this
Mhm.
little mountain village, that's has grown so much just in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's so much better to go back as a tourist now and really get to enjoy the tourist side of things. Um, except for paying $100 a day to ski. That's a bit much, but
Dude, just buy your Epic Pass before the prices go up.
I
Like
know, I know, I know. That's what I need to do. I'm just having a dilemma with Vail right now.
I mean, you can get
um,
it. Yeah, you could. Yeah, I mean, I call it the evil empire.
yeah, it
You know,
truly has become that way, unfortunately.
yeah,
I think they're starting to really treat their employees a little better. They just moved the minimum wage up to $20 an hour, or at least they were talking about that.
yeah,
So they're moving towards, the right area. But when you look at it, it's like people are renting a room out for, I'm looking at Eagle County Classifieds. It's anywhere between $1,000 and $1,800 for a room.
and
Whereas
they're not nice
moving
rooms.
no, no. moving to Tampa, Florida, they're saying the rent is crazy here, but it's nothing compared to Vail. You know, it's like I'm paying $1,000 a month for a fully furnished apartment,
Mm,
and I can come and go as I please because that gives me the finances that I can travel with and everything. It just makes it easier for me to really, justify, traveling to Vail for 3, 4 months out of the year and
yeah,
still be able to pay for an apartment that I can come back to.
yeah, that's
And go
interesting.
Airbnb everywhere. So it's just a
Hmm.
lot cheaper here. What you can get here is a lot better.
So
But
basically, you're saying like location arbitrage, where like, because
yep,
because this is something I've been considered, like, because I like it up here and it's
yeah,
nice, and so I enjoy it, but I've never lived by the ocean, and I'm like, I kind of want to do that in my life,
yeah,
sooner rather than later. And what would I really be trading off? And like you mentioned, like if you're paying $500 to $600 more a month, right? Let's just say $500 more a month, right? That's $6,000 a year that in cost. So what could you do in that? So you could live somewhere where you're paying less than that, have a nicer place, and all your other expenses are less. Maybe taxes are better, and then you
yep,
save $6,000 plus. What could you do with that $6,000? Right?
yeah,
How nice is that vacation could you go? How many vacations could you go on?
yeah.
Um, right? Is
Yeah,
that
well,
kind of
that's
like,
that's why I kept spending an extra month and an extra month in Vail.
yeah,
So I'm like, okay, I can justify this now. If I was living up in Vail for that entire time, my expenses go up like crazy. So no, I mean, it's incredible that, you can work from anywhere. That's the upside of this. I can spend 3 months in Vail. I can spend wherever I have Wi-Fi pretty
yeah,
much. And with Starlink, that's just become so much easier. So
yeah,
um no, I love being able to live by a beach because I spent my whole life in the mountains. So it's pretty much like a night and day difference.
yeah,
Although it's still a resort area, it's like I'm living on Clearwater Beach area, and it's still that resort vibe, which
yeah,
I like. I like, the world coming to you. That's always what I loved about Vale is
yeah,
you really, I mean, you met people from all walks of life in Vale area, which was
yeah.
the beautiful thing about it.
Cool, cool. Well, I mean, I think that's something I'm looking into, and that I think for if you're an entrepreneur out there, like that's something to look into as well. Like, you may not live in the most desired location, or like the location, but you can find other awesome locations where you can live in that's cheaper, that you can meet amazing people, that has great food and resources and connections, and all that
Yep.
money that you save, you can then go to the vales of the vales of the world and have those nice vacations.
Yeah.
So it just takes a little strategy. So I kind of like that. Um,
Oh yeah.
so thanks, Gavin, for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to follow your content, work with you?
Yeah, so typically I'm easiest to reach on my Instagram at Digital Marketer Man. That's going to be the easiest. I'm pulling up my website. Digitalmarketerman.com is being released this week. And that's where
Nice.
you'll be able to go to apply for coaching consulting. And eventually that's where my courses are going to be as well. And the turnkey services right now, I'm partnered with Trinity Marketing Solutions. Great marketing agency. I've been working with Mason. He's the founder of the company,
Okay.
and he's just been great to work with. Incredible with Facebook ads, and that's where I've moved my turnkey services: developer on demand and website development. So,
Awesome.
as well as chatbot, all that good stuff. Pretty much, if you need it, we probably service it.
Cool.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Awesome. And that'll all be in the comments and stuff below this video. So thanks again for coming on. And I look forward to, maybe visiting you down in Florida this time, or seeing you up here in the winter for some skiing. So
Oh
take
yeah.
care, and I'll talk